What's happening YouTube? This is Champion 2D Rob back again. How's everybody doing? I've said it, I've been saying it for ages guys, and finally I'm going to start to get the ball rolling now. This is going to be a collection video, the first one for 2016. I will be putting out more collection vids down the line. So I thought this video is going to be my Wii collection. Now I've been meaning to showcase my Wii collection for some time now. You know, it's a great little system, but this particular collection is actually one of the smaller collections that I have. When I started picking up for the Wii, it was actually I had a certain amount of games in mind, so I already knew what I was going to pick up prior to picking up. I just wanted to cherry pick the best games, at least the games that I felt best represented the Wii and what my tastes are. So yeah, so let's get on with it. But before I actually get into the Wii games themselves, as a little bonus, I'm actually going to start with some GameCube titles. I never owned a GameCube. Well, I briefly owned the GameCube, but that's a long story. But yeah, I have a few I have a few GameCube games here, because obviously my Wii is backwards compatible. So I felt that once I got the Wii, it was definitely worth picking out a few GameCube titles as well. I don't have many here. I've only got 5 titles, so I'll just jump right straight into it because we've got a lot to go through. So the first title I got was Star Wars Rogue Leader, Rogue Squadron 2. I haven't gotten around to play this yet, I'll be honest with you. I picked this up actually at Retro Replay in Blackpool last year, and I still have not gotten around to playing this. But I've heard nothing but good things though. It's definitely one I've always wanted to play. And I'm a big fan of Star Wars, so yeah. Next one I've got is Luigi's Mansion. Again, also picked this up at Play in Blackpool last year, but I actually got this off of another YouTuber, 2UK. How you doing, Stu, mate? Yeah, I've played this a bit actually, and I'll be honest, it's not really my cup of tea. I thought it would be. I played around with it for a bit, but I found the controls quite fiddly. Just sort of the way you sort of try to catch the ghosts and stuff. But to be honest, I need to put more time into it. But it didn't immediately grab me as much as I thought it would. Next title I have is Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. This was actually the one title I had back when I very briefly owned the GameCube, and when the GameCube managed to work, this was the game I played, and I actually very much enjoyed it. So when I got the Wii, I decided to rebuy this game because I basically moved on my old copy. This is actually quite a cool 3D platformer from the makers of Sonic. I think it's a bit of an underrated title. No one ever talks about Billy Hatcher. I think it's actually a very fun 3D platform game. It has an original concept, and I enjoy it. I think this is a bit of a gem on the GameCube, and it's a shame that it's pretty much just become a GameCube game that's sort of gone into obscurity because it's not spawned a series or anything, which is a shame. But this is a fun game, so definitely check out Billy Hatcher. And the next title I got here, this was definitely a must-have title for me, and that is Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. I've been itching to play this game for years, for a very long time. I always wish this had come out on sort of like the other systems, but this remained the GameCube exclusive. And I have played a bit of it, and it's great. It's nice to see the changes, because I was a big fan of the original on the PlayStation 1. This is a brilliant game, highly recommended, especially given the fact that this hasn't been re-released in any way. So the only way you can play this remastered version of the original Metal Gear Solid is by getting this GameCube exclusive. But yeah, it's a fantastic title. And lastly, for the Cube, I had to get this. Probably one of the earliest games I picked up for it, and that is Ikaruga. Always wanted to play this game for the longest time, and it's fantastic. Absolutely love it. It's a great space shooter. The way you can flip between black and red to avoid the bullets. It's just a novel way to play a space shooter. I just really liked its concept, and it's very much a fun game to play. Definitely one of the best shooters on the market, and it's just a brilliant game. So yeah, highly recommend it. So that's it in terms of Wii. So let's move straight into that's it in terms of GameCube. I'm all over the place today. So that's it in terms of GameCube. Now we're going to move on to the Wii titles. So there's a lot to get through, so I'm just going to jump right into it. First one is Ghost Squad. Fantastic on-rail shooter. It goes for pennies nowadays, so this is definitely, there's no reason why you shouldn't have this game in your collection. It's really cheap. It's a lot of fun. Reminds me of the great the good old days of Sega on-rail shooters from the arcade, so definitely worth picking up. Next up we have House of the Dead Overkill, and I have to say this is probably my most played game on the Wii. I absolutely love this game. So much fun to play. I love the grindhouse aspect of it. It's just a lot of fun, and yeah, just a great on-rail shooter. Next game I have here is Sin and Punishment, a successor of The Skies. This is a very, very cool game. In fact, I was very chuffed to get this game. I found this game at a CEX for very cheap, and it's a brilliant title. It's sort of like a 3D on rails shooter, but not quite. You use the thumbsticks to move around, or you can use the Wii remote and whatnot. But it's a great title. Definitely a must-have on the Wii. So much fun. I haven't really put too much time into this game, if I'm honest. But I've spent about 2 hours into it, or give or take. And but it's a lot of fun. This is definitely a high recommendation. This is for me one of the better games on the Wii. Not a lot of people talk about, which is a shame. I know this was a sequel to N64 title that never got a Western release, but this is definitely worth a look, guys. Next up is Tatsunoko vs Capcom. This is one of the first games I actually got for the Wii, because this was actually me being a very big 2D fighting fan, and this pretty much being a Wii exclusive. I had to get this game. It's a brilliant game. I love the fact that you've got all the Capcom characters, and you've got all the characters from the company of Tatsunoko. Now, while Tatsunoko might not be a name that most of us are familiar with, most of us are familiar with some of the characters in their library. But it's a great fighting game for sure. Definitely, I rank it up there with some of the best that Capcom has put out. And I like being able to play as a lot of these characters from my childhood. And I'm not just talking about Capcom characters either. There's quite a lot here from the Tatsunoko side that I am familiar with. So it was great to be able to play as them as well. Next one I have here as well is House of the Dead 2 and 3 The Return. Back in the 90s, I used to play a lot of House of the Dead in the arcades. But I never owned a Saturn, and I didn't own a Dreamcast either, so I was unable to get any of the versions there. But it's nice to be able to play the home ports of these titles, as I used to very much enjoy them back in the day in the arcades. And yeah, this is just a great port of 2 and 3, so yeah, very chuffed with that. Moving on, this is GTI Club Super Mini Festa. This is actually a recommendation from Scott Sega Saturn Lad. How you doing, mate? He recommended this game to me. He said it was one of those titles it's a bit of a gem, but it's quite hard to find. It sort of holds its value, and it's a really cool game. I hear it's actually an arcade game from Konami. It's a racing game, as you can probably tell. It's a very cool game as well. I'm very glad to pick it up. So thank you a lot, Scott, for giving me this recommendation. Fun game, very much a fun game. Great arcadey racer. This is very much what I'm into. I like one of the things that I was sort of going after in terms of the Wii was a lot of the arcade ports, and this is very much an arcade racing title, and it's definitely worth picking up if you can get it for a good price. Next one I have here is Dragon Ball: The Revenge of King Piccolo. Now, I'm a massive fan of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, so I definitely had to pick this up. But what really encouraged me to pick this up was mostly off the strength of the Game Boy Advance game, which is also based on the original Dragon Ball manga. And this is very much follows in that tradition. This is like a 2.5D action platformer, very much like the Game Boy Advance game, but it's its own game. It's not as good as the Game Boy Advance game, but I think it's just as fun. I very much enjoy it. It's just a nice action side scroller, which is one of the things I like the most. It's one of my favorite genres. So yeah, if you like 2.5 or 2D action platformers, definitely give this one a look. Next one I have here is The Last Story. I got this game from a trade with Lee, Retro Fusion. How you doing, mate? I haven't gotten around to playing this yet, but this game has always fascinated me. I mean, a lot of people go on about Xenoblade Chronicles, but don't get me wrong, that game looks amazing. But this one really intrigued me, so I haven't actually played it yet. Just haven't had the time, to be honest. But I will be going into this game at some point soon. This is definitely an intriguing title. One thing I have heard though is that because I think these Western releases sort of were aimed mostly at a European audience, that the voice acting is all sort of is British, which is quite unusual, because even though I'm from the UK and stuff, we're sort of more used to listening to American voice actors. So it's going to be quite cool and quite novel to hear sort of very British accents in this game. So yeah, looking forward to playing that at some point. Next up I have here is Resident Evil Zero, a title that originated on the GameCube, and it's now come out on the PlayStation 4 as part of that remake double pack. In hindsight, I kind of regret buying this just because it's now become available on the PS4, and I much prefer to play it on that. But to be honest with you, I'm glad to have it now. I have played it a little bit, and it's quite a cool title. I've always wanted to play this Resident Evil game, and I'm glad it's become more available, because sort of, you always do sort of fiend for old school Resident Evil. So, since obviously a lot of changes has happened as time has gone on, but this is sort of harks back to the classic Resi 1 and Resident Evil 2 days. But from what I played of it, it's actually quite a fun game. I like the fact that some of it sort of takes place on the trains, quite cool, and the characters seem interesting as well. So yeah. Next up, I have here A Shadow's Tale. I still haven't played this yet. It's still sealed. Haven't gotten around to playing this game yet, but I'm glad that I've got it, because this game seems to be holding its price. In fact, I think it's gone up in price now. But yeah, I did make a point to pick this up very quickly, because I had a feeling this was going to be one of those titles that was going to go up in price, just because it's just an obscure title that's highly praised. So yeah, so glad to get it out of the way. I will be giving this a game a go very soon, but yeah, just haven't gotten around to it. Next one I have here is Super Paper Mario. Now, I wasn't sure what to make of this game prior to buying it. I didn't know what I was expecting, but when I finally put it in the machine, I actually did give this game a go. I actually found myself to enjoy it quite a bit. So I haven't spent too much time with it, but I have played it enough to know what the game is about, and I do enjoy it. It's not as RPG as I thought it would be. It does play more like a platformer, but obviously not like traditional Mario platformers, but I do enjoy this. This is actually a very fun game, and I can't wait to delve into this one a lot more. Next one I have here is The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Always wanted to play this game. Now, a lot of people have said this is probably their least favourite version of Twilight Princess. Most people tended to up until very recently, people's preferred choice of playing this game was on the GameCube. Now it's available on the Wii U, so I guess a lot of people are going to favour that version even more. And the reason why is because this one sort of went for sort of Wiimote controls as opposed to just playing it on a control pad, which I think most people, even myself included, do prefer playing games in a more traditional format. But I'm glad to have it, and I look forward to trying this one out. I've never been a big fan of Zelda, never have, but I do have a few games in the series in my collection, and I'm always willing to give the best ones a shot. So yeah, looking forward to trying that one out at some point as well. Next game I have here is Punch Out. Yeah, you know, I've always been looking forward to playing this game. I have Super Punch Out on Super Nintendo, and I do enjoy that title. Um, this game is something else quite entirely. This one is very based on sort of motion controls, and I have to say though, if you're not very fit, this game is gonna tire you out very quickly. It is a lot of fun though, but I have to say, like, playing this game is like having a workout. And if I come back from the gym, last thing I want to do is put this game on, because yeah, it's not happening. But it's a fun title, and I think this also works as a great sort of workout if you don't have access to the gym. So, but it's a fun game. I do enjoy it, but I'm not gonna lie. Every time I want my Punch Out fix, I tend to gravitate towards the Super Nintendo version, just because I don't have to be swinging my arms around. But it's still a fun game and definitely worth a pick up. Next title I got here is Wario Land: The Shake Dimension. This is actually another title that was recommended to me by Scott Sega Saturn Lad, and I'm very glad to pick this up. Actually, it's a great fun 2D platformer. This was definitely not one on my radar. I had no idea about this game until it was recommended to me. I mean, I'm familiar with the Wario Land series, but this just wasn't on my radar. But glad to pick it up. It's a lot of fun. I do very much enjoy it, and I love 2D. Anything 2D action, platforming, side-scroller type games. It's definitely up my street. So this was definitely. I'm glad to add this into the collection. Next title I have here is Pandora's Tower. Again, this is another title that I got in a trade with Lee Retro Fusion. It's still sealed, haven't gotten around to playing this game. This is another title that very much intrigued me, more so than Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm not too sure. I mean, I think this is like more of an action 3D game with RPG elements, or is it more of an RPG? I'm not too sure, but it's definitely one that looked interesting to me, so I'm glad to have it in the collection. Next title here, really happy to get this one actually, and that's Kirby's Adventure Wii. I'm a massive fan of the Kirby titles. Now, say what you will about them, they are, you know, they're not the hardest games in the world, but for me, Kirby games, very much like Mario games, are what I would consider fun titles. Games that I just put on and just enjoy and be reminded of the fact of why I love gaming so much. It's not so much that the game is hot, like gives you any real challenge, but it's just fun to play, and sometimes that to me is more important. If the game is just fun to play, that's what matters to me, and the Kirby games basically fulfilled that. This is definitely one of the better titles in the Kirby series. So if you want to get into Kirby, you're not sure where to go, and you have a Wii, pick this one up. This is a brilliant Kirby title. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah. Next title I have here is Ivy the Kiwi. Yeah, very cool 2D sort of platformer puzzle type game. Bit of a gem. Picked it up on the cheap. I think it's one of those games that sort of, it's quite obscure, but it is recognised as being a bit of a gem title. So very glad to pick it up. It's actually my most this is actually my most recent Wii edition. Next game, this is another one I was very happy to add into the collection, and that is A Boy and His Blob. Yeah, this is a brilliant title, great 2D puzzler platformer type game. This was actually one of the games that was very high on my list when I first got the Wii. I always thought the graphics looked beautiful. I've always been a fan of that sort of 2D hand-drawn graphical style. And yeah, I've never played the original game on the NES, but this one looks fantastic. And yeah, I've played it a little bit, not spent too much time with it, but I will get around to it at some point. Next up, who could not have this? That is Super Mario Galaxy. Yeah, if you have a Wii collection, you have to get the Galaxy games, and yeah, so chuffed to get this one. It's a lot of fun. I actually really did enjoy this game. I wasn't too sure if I was going to like this one or not, because just based on what I'd seen, the footage, like the level designs and stuff, I thought, oh, I don't know, this looks a bit too gimmicky. Looks like it's strayed a bit too far from the usual Mario formula. But that's actually quite deceiving, because when you actually play the game, it is very much a Mario title. It's very different, but it's still very much a Mario game, and it's fun to play. So yeah, great to have this one in the collection. Next game I have here is Klonoa. This is a remake of the PlayStation 1 title, and yeah, even though I have the original on the PlayStation 1, I did want to add this one into the collection as well, just to see it with much nicer visuals. And it's a fantastic game. It's a 2.5D platformer title. So much fun. Again, this sort of falls in line with sort of the Kirby games, where it's not necessarily the hardest game in the world, but it's just a lot of fun to play. And I definitely think, you know, if you like games like Kirby, this is definitely one game you should check out. Next one I have here is Resident Evil. This is the remake that was based on the original GameCube game, the one that has since been re-released on the PS4. And it's still sealed, not got around to getting it. Again, in hindsight, kind of regret getting it on the Wii, because I'd much prefer to play it on the later systems. I also do own it on the PS3. I imported an Asian copy of it as well. So that's basically my preferred method of playing it. But you know what? It's still nice to have in the collection as a fan of Resident Evil. Not too sure when I'm going to get around to playing this particular version of the game, but you know, it's nice to have anyway. Next one I have here is Sonic Colors. Now, aside from Sonic Generations on the PlayStation 3, this was the only other Sonic game in terms of the modern Sonic titles that really sort of piqued my interest. I had heard a lot of good things about this game, but from what I've played of it, it's okay. I need to put more time into it, to be honest with you, but I'll be honest, my initial impressions were that it was just okay. It's not that I think it's a bad game necessarily, but it's just, I don't know, I think maybe my expectations were a little bit higher than I thought. But still, you know, one to check out, and I'm glad to have it in the collection anyway. Next one I have here is what's it? Gunblade New York and LA Machine Guns. This is basically two arcade games on one disc. They're both on-rail shooters, and they're a lot of fun. And again, this can be had for pennies nowadays. This is a very, very cheap title to pick up, and it's definitely worth getting if you like your light gun shooters. And of course, I've got Super Mario Galaxy 2. Now, since I haven't completed the first title, I've not really played this one much. I have played it a little bit just to sort of try it out. It's nice that they added Yoshi into the game, but it's pretty much more of the same. It's just another great platformer title based around Super Mario. And you know, if you like the first Galaxy game, then you'll definitely enjoy this title. And I'm definitely happy to have it. Next one I have here is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Now, this is actually still sealed, haven't opened it yet. I will get round to this, I don't know when, but I picked this up quite cheaply. I bought it at Argos. I think it was, who was it that told me about the Argos deal? I think it was, crap, I forget, sorry, but definitely a YouTuber told me about this, that it was available on at Argos, so I picked it up. I will get around to this at some point, but just not sure when. Next one I have here is Kirby's Epic Yarn. Again, I also picked this up at Argos. It's still sealed, not got around to playing it yet. I know this is not a traditional Kirby title, but you know, and I also hear this game is extremely easy, but I'm hoping, just like I was saying before, that the game is fun to play. Well, I don't expect it to be like the traditional Kirby games. I do hope it at least has that sort of fun element to it that I enjoy very much from the Kirby titles. So yeah, I'll look forward to playing this at some point soon. Next one I have here is Metroid Other M. I'm a big fan of the classic 2D Metroid titles, so I'm very excited to actually have this game now. This game has gotten a lot of stick, and I think it's mostly down to the voice acting and sort of the added story elements, but no one's really complained about the game itself. So I haven't got around to it yet. It's still sealed as well, but this game can be it's quite cheap to get, I guess, because it had sort of, it was unfairly criticised, and I think you shouldn't really criticise a game just because of the story. If the game is fun to play, then that's really what matters at the end of the day. But a lot of people took issue with what they did with the character of Samus in this title. But from what I've seen, it looks like it's a fun game, so I'll definitely look forward to trying this one out. Next game I have here is Deadly Creatures. This is another title that was not initially on my list to get, but I'd heard so many good things about it, and then when I came across it at CEX for cheap, well, how much I paid for this? I paid £2 for this game. So I haven't even taken the stickers off it yet, but yeah, I just came across it in the wild. So I thought, you know what, this game has gotten a lot of positive feedback from people, so it's definitely worth playing. I still haven't gotten around to playing this yet, but you know, I look forward to, because like I say, I've heard nothing but very good things. Next title I have here is Metroid Prime Trilogy. Now, this was very much a grail game for me to get on the Wii, because at the time this game was going for a lot of money, and while I didn't necessarily spend a lot of my own money on it, I did sort of sell some stuff on and use the credit of that to pick this up on eBay back when it was going for a lot of money. It's annoying to hear the fact that this game has sort of dropped in price since, but you know, that's the way the retro gaming buying and selling is. You know, sometimes these games can hold their price, go up, sometimes they drop in price. It's just the way it is. And this is one of those games that has since sort of dropped, I think halved in price, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I haven't looked it up myself, I'm just going by what people have said. But I'm glad to have it. I've only played a little bit of the first game. This is not really sort of traditional Metroid, it's like a first-person shooter type title. It definitely seems like a lot of fun, although I haven't delved too much into the first game. To be honest with you, I kind of got stuck. And I didn't know where to go. I'm really shitty at these sort of games. If it's sort of like 3D platformer type, puzzle platformer type games, I'm crap at them. But I'll definitely put some time into this because I spent a lot of money on it. So I need to put some time into this title. Next up, I have here is Muramasa the Demon Blade. This was a game that was very high on my list. And it's a great title. It's a fantastic 2D action side scroller, beat 'em up, RPG, whatever you want to call it. It's a great game. I believe this did get a re-release on the Vita, if I'm not mistaken. It's a shame it never got one on the PS3 or PS4 for that matter, but it's a brilliant title. If you like your 2D action side scroller, beat 'em ups, RPGs, whatever, this is definitely one to get. So very chuffed to have this one. This was very high on my list to get. Okay, we're down to the last two games here. We've got Knight's Journey into Dreams. Now, I've heard a lot of mixed views on this title, but a lot of people say it's nowhere near as good as the original Knights on the Saturn. But since I don't have a Saturn and they haven't re-released that game, I'll definitely more than happy to give this one a try, especially since I picked it up for very, very cheap out in the wild. And yeah, it looks like a fun game. I played it a little bit, but I've not spent too much time with it. But you know, it's just nice to have in the collection. And lastly, I've got Batman: The Brave and the Bold, the video game. This is a very, very cool 2D action side-scroller game. It's developed by WayForward Studios. They've put out some fantastic titles on the DS. In fact, probably my favourite games on the DS were developed by WayForward. Including, there was actually a DS version of Batman: The Brave and the Bold, which is very much its own game. So it's definitely worth having both if you have a DS as well. This game is so much fun. I would say the only bad thing about this game is that like a lot of titles on the Wii, Nintendo kind of forces you to use the nunchuck and Wiimote. There is no option to play this title just using the control pad, which I think is a shame. But you know what though, even though you have to use the Wiimote, it's fine. I think it plays quite well. It's quite an enjoyable game. It's a bit weird, but once you get used to it, it is a lot of fun to play. And I know my pal, Cojones del Oro, he's been enjoying this game as of late. So you know, I think he was. I recommended this game to him. I think he saw one of my videos and opted to pick this one up. But it's definitely a brilliant game if you like old school sort of 2D action side scrollers. This is definitely one of those titles. I think if you're a fan of that 16-bit era, pick this up. So that's it. That's basically all of my Wii games. It's not a lot, I know, and I know there are a lot of titles that I neglected to buy. And to be honest with you, it was like that for a reason. I know a lot of you guys might be name dropping some titles for me in the comment section below, but I can tell you now, guys, I did have a list in mind, and I've pretty much gotten all the games that I want for it. I don't really see myself picking up any more Wii titles. I'm very happy. I've got a lot here to get through anyway. I haven't been able to play all these games yet, so yeah, just very, very chuffed to have what I do have. The Wii system itself is definitely a system that's divided me a little bit. On the one hand, it has some fantastic titles, but I don't like the fact that I'm sort of forced to play a certain way. It would have been nice to also play a more traditional method, you know, with the controller. I mean, I'm an old man, you know, I'm set in my ways, you know. Give me a controller, that's what I want. But you know what though, at the end of the day, it's still fun to play, even with the Wiimote and the nunchuck. So it's a great system, and if you don't have a Wii but you have a Wii U, check these titles out as well. These are definitely gems on the system. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I will be back very soon, and yeah, bye bye.